Hello, I'm Gary Quinn. Welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. In society today, people want to look young, feel young, and be healthy. In my quest for anti-aging, I'm always curious to find out more. My guest today is a New York Times best-selling author. She's a fantastic actress, and she's also a health advocate, the dynamic Susanne Summers.
Well, thank you. What a nice intro. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Susanne. How are you feeling? I know that you had an accident a while ago or this year. How is
Yeah,
the
this
healing?
year. You know, it re-energized in me. Enjoy each day because you never know what tomorrow will bring. I had fractured my hip, a freak accident, and it was just healing. And I was standing at the top of our bedroom stairs, and there's 20 stairs down to the courtyard. And I was waiting for Alan, and Alan comes out and he takes my hand, and his foot, and it was so, he never does things like this. He slipped on a boulder, he went down, and I went down on top of him. So on top of my fractured hip, I broke my neck, and I broke my spine, and I jostled my jaw very badly. And it's been a long recovery, but because I've taken such good care of myself for the last 20, 30 years, I've eaten right and I've done yoga every other day for 19 years. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm probably at 95, 96. I'm still waiting for full mobility from my neck to turn side to side, but I never appreciated how well my body has always worked until this happened. So there will be a book out of this or something great will come out of this. It always does.
Wow.
So thank you for asking.
I know we live in different times and, our food and our water and our air is tainted with pollution and pesticides. And I think right now more than ever, especially during this pandemic, we've had to be our own health advocates. And I know that you are the health advocate, and I'm so inspired by what you do. What has been the biggest epiphany or revelation you've had during this time of pandemic and this accident for you?
It's about the food. It's about the food. If you had a Maserati, you would never put inferior fuel into your Maserati. And if you had a Maserati, you'd constantly be listening because it's a big investment for any kind of sounds that don't sound natural or any, kind of if the chassis is not right or whatever goes on wrong with the car. I don't know cars. We don't take as good care of our bodies. The most magnificent machine ever created and ever will be created. We take better care of our cars. And so it's about feeding yourself right. So with this terrible accident I had, I was able to heal so much more quickly to the surprise of my doctors by food. And most of my doctors, in this case, I had to go allopathic because when you have neck surgery and spine surgery and jaw surgery and leg surgery, you've got to go allopathic. And I'm not a big drug taker, but when you need them and they're God sent. So I think we have to respect integrating. My first choice is always to go alternative, but if that's not working, then let's integrate the best of both worlds. And this has been a remarkable experience for me to realize that that drugs got me through this. And I never, ever would have said that. I was pompous about it. I never will take drugs. And when you have pain, we humans will do anything to take away pain. And pain is so debilitating. But I'm on the other side of it now. And what I'm realizing, and we're talking about the gut renew and all that, is that we today are under the greatest environmental assault in the history of humanity. This has never happened before. And it crept up on us so insidiously. So when I grew up, no one ever thought to spray poison on our food. Think of that concept. Oh, here's some good food. Let's spray poison all over it. No one ever thought to genetically modify our food. So when you eat genetically modified food, it gets in our intestines. You know what it does? It creates an insecticide factory in your intestines. Plus, it's something the body doesn't recognize, so you confuse the body. You don't want to confuse the body. The body is a system that works on balance. And so my thrust at this chapter of my life, and I've had so many chapters and they're all interesting, is to make myself understand that what I put into my body is going to have an effect on my health and my quality of life. You probably know this, but the GI tract is the length of a tennis court. And that's the barrier wall. If you stretched out all your intestines, your barrier wall, it's the length of a tennis court. And when the chemicals from spraying poison on our food or genetically modified food get into our GI tract, you know what it does? It eats through the barrier wall and creates leaks. That's how you get this thing called leaky gut. And these chemicals leak out into your bloodstream, and then they go, oh, good, now I can go after what I want. They love fatty organs and glands, their favorite being the brain. So as it makes its way up to the brain, the hypothalamus, which is the brain, and the pituitary has to shrink to make room for more toxins. The more toxins you take in from pesticides on the food and GMO foods, the more the brain has to shrink. The more toxins, the more it has to shrink. So that could really account for, I'm not saying I'm coming up with, the reason for dementia and Alzheimer's, but it sure has to be a part of it. Plus now the new thing that young kids actually brag about, they brag about their initials. Well, I have ADD. Well, I have ADD and ADHD. Well, I have ADD, ADHD, and OCD. I have dyslexia, I have dyspraxia. It's so commonplace in young people. I fear for what's down the road for them. And so what I'm trying to do with the books I've written 27 books, is to make people understand the value of what we put on and in our bodies and what we breathe. Whatever it is that we can control will affect the quality of our lives going forward. And having had this accident this year, and having always been in great health, except for when I had cancer 20 years ago, I've never appreciated health more than I have this year, realizing don't take it for granted. One fall, an accumulation of chemicals can change your life for the worse.
Well, also, Susanne, when you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Anything. You don't have anything. It's all about health. I used to get invited to these incredible dinner parties in Beverly Hills. Barbara and Marvin Davis. Marvin Davis is now passed, but when he was alive, he and his wife gave these parties on Saturday nights at their house that was like an era. And I was so privileged to be invited. And who wasn't there? One night I'm talking to King Abdullah and his wife Rania. Another night I'm talking to Mel Gibson. Then I'm talking to Sting. And so I would always end up, I think Marvin had a crush on me, Marvin Davis. And I always ended up, when they called it for dinner, with this lavish long table. And they come around with these big bowls of caviar to spoon into your potato with sour cream. Oh my God, it was so good. I'd sit next to Marvin, who had to be wheeled in a wheelchair by his handlers. And he had no strength in his voice. You know how old men lose all the volume in their voice? And so he'd be leaning like this, and I could hardly hear him. And I'd have to lean in further and further. And I realized, oh, you're looking down my dress. So at least you got a little juice left. But I looked at all his opulence and all his riches, and I thought, I wouldn't trade my life with yours for a day, for the life I have, because I have superb health. So value your health, and it's about the food that you eat, and be careful of what you put on your skin, because what you put on your skin ends up going into your bloodstream.
Well, absolutely. It's like what you used to say about the toothpaste, about the fluoride, and know what I teach is mind, body, spirit, and it's what we eat, we become, what we think, we attract, and really about how to find that balance and sustainability of really creating our oneness together is really finding the authentic voice, and that wellness is the catalyst. And I think what you're doing is really aligning people to this place of taking dominion over their health, but starting to be their own health advocate, which I think so many people today, they look at a doctor for all the answers, and the body is an amazing healing mechanism. And I think if we just trust that and we put the right things in our food and eat right and put, the right shampoo, the right skincare, then we're going to have, let's say, an energy, a
Yeah.
wellness energy. Suzanne, what?
You're so wise. What you just said is so wise.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, thank
And
you,
it's so
Suzanne.
important. So important.
And I think that's what
And what
people.
I want to just comment on one thing you said
Yes.
about, your thoughts. The brain believes everything you tell it. So if you fill your brain with negatives, that's what you're going to get. I live in gratitude. I think gratitude, the food we eat, the thoughts we think, the love we have, all these things make us who we are and give us quality of life. And all that's necessary for me now at this time in my life, and that anything, you feel the same way. It's not about money. It's not about anything other than having great health and great love in my life.
Well, what you're going to do, and all of us, Suzanne, is we're not going to take our life, meaning our finances, our fame, our favorite
With us.
watch. You're
Right.
going to take away the experience that you've had with your children, with friends, with Alan, and really look at that is the experience of really all there is love.
That's all there is love. Haven't we heard that over and over and over, but you don't hear it until you're ready to hear. And when
Correct.
you hear it, you go, of course. It's helped me to understand the God of my understanding. God is love. And I look at my husband and I think that you are all love to me. And I've, I am chronologically old now. I am 74 chronologically, but I'm not old. And I'm not old because I have fed myself right. I've thought right. I've loved right. I've been grateful for all that I've gotten. I have forgiven those who have hurt me, and I've asked for forgiveness for those who I have hurt. I live a simpler life now, and my life with Alan is like 5 o'clock every night. This is the only bad thing I do. 5 o'clock every night.
You have a
we
drink.
Yeah,
I
do.
saw
I
you.
do. I have a tequila. I'm having it early tonight with you.
Okay.
And we sit and we usually say ready for our date, and our date is at 5. We meet at the bar. We listen to music, cool music, the music that I like to sing in my nightclub act. That the Great American Songbook, and all the Sinatra and Diana Krall and Chris Bodie and Sting and those wonderful, wonderful artists. And we talk in a different way. It's relaxed. We laugh, we dance sometimes, and then when we're finished with that date, we go to the kitchen, and I make a great dinner for us. Great, and it's usually picked from my organic garden right down the hill here. Like right now, the cabbages are bursting, and the cauliflowers are bursting, and the tomatoes are all going, I'm going to be red next week. Don't pick me yet. I've got the artichokes blooming, and I get such a thrill out of this vegetable garden. And I know everybody listening can't have a vegetable garden because you don't have the weather we have here. But one of the reasons I put up with the hot summers here in the desert is so that I can have this magnificent, profuse organic garden all year long. It's just a thrill of my life.
Suzanne, what does love mean to you?
Love is what makes me/us whole. Without it, there's something vacant about life. Love is where my gratitude comes from. When I lie in bed at night, that moment when the lights are out and you're not quite asleep yet, and I speak to the voice within. I thank that voice that I speak to for the love in my life with my husband. Self-love. I love who I am. If we were created by God, and God is perfection, I do a little bit of thanks for making me. I'm perfect.
Exactly.
How could I say anything less to the Creator? So love is cliche. It's all there is. And
Absolutely.
when the money goes and fame goes and love is left. There are two things I think that are very important in life: love and purpose. And if you find your purpose in life, you'll find love and you'll find happiness.
And you know, Susanne, I think what's so important for individuals that are hearing this or watching this, that, you know, we didn't come into this lifetime to suffer. And many
Right.
people have this thought process of that it has to be so difficult. But I don't look at it as being difficult. I think the challenges that we've had and the challenges that you have done or had has made you who you are today. And I
Oh,
think you're a dynamic person.
and
Uh,
vice versa. I can tell by the things you say. I, as I said, I've written 27 books, and initially I wrote about being a child of an alcoholic. I grew up in a violent, abusive, alcoholic home, and when I wrote that book, which became a bestseller for 16 weeks, New York Times, #1, and then became a movie, because I wasn't alone. There was a lot of us who had to hide in closets at night to be safe. We had a lock on the inside of the closet door. When I wrote the book Keeping Secrets, I was appalled to realize that I actually think I spent more nights sleeping in this locked closet than in my own bed. But in the awfulness of that part of my life, my father was physically but also verbally abusive, and he used to say this thing: "You're nothing. You're stupid. You're hopeless. You're worthless." And then he'd do this. He goes, "You're a big O." And I remember thinking as a little girl, "Oh, yeah? Well, I'll show you." And I always say I got a bad case of the "I'll show yous." And so many years later, I was headlining at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas. And I'd been selling out 2 shows a night, every night, this big room. And one night, my parents were there. And I asked my father to come up on stage with me. By this time, he was sober. And I'd so forgiven him. And I'd already written the book. I mean, imagine having your daughter write a book about the worst part of you. And he let me. I thank him for that, because it started a movement. It started the Adult Children of Alcoholics movement. It started healing so many people. So he had purpose, as I had purpose. But I brought him up on stage. And when the time comes in life, as you get older, where you can say, "I told you so," or "I showed you," you don't need to say it. It's self-evident. And I brought him up on stage. It's my showroom. I'm the headliner. And he was so proud. And I sang the song, "You Made Me Love You." I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. You made me love you, and all the time you knew it. It was kind of a profound moment for me and for him.
that was a huge healing, you know.
Yeah,
And by
yeah.
the way, my mom saw you in Vegas. She loved you. She went to several of your shows. She
Oh,
said, "Tell
wow.
Susanne I went to her show."
Oh, tell
uh,
her I so appreciate her coming. The
and
highlight of my career. I love every facet of my career, and I'm so grateful. It's been so multifaceted. But for me, for Susanne to get off, it's being on stage in Vegas mainly. I've been all around the world touring, but something about the Vegas stage and doing that show night after night, you get so good, and you learn how to talk to an audience in a way that there's only um, performing night after night after night can teach you. And it was just, I did that for decades, and it was just a great part of my life.
And you know, Susanne, so many people, especially in the entertainment world, the creative world, they came from households where there was abuse or there was
Oh,
something that was traumatic. And that was their way out to, I don't want to say fantasize that they were going to get out of it, but to have an intention that you were going to do better, even if somebody was telling you that you were a zero or nothing. And I think
yeah.
you have turned that around. And I think many people out there, maybe they're afraid, maybe they don't know how to, you know, get help. So it's so important to have role models like you that say,
Thank
you
you.
know what, look what I did, and I did it.
You know how that happened for me? Always. The worst things that happen to you in life can be the best things. So having that alcoholic father, I wouldn't have chosen it, but wow, did I get the "I'll show yous," and did that make me strong? The next thing that made me real strong was I got pregnant at 18,
Mm.
at a time when I had never had sex. It was the first time I ever had sex, if it was sex. I don't even remember. It sure wasn't everything that they write poems about. And now I have to get married because that's what you had to do back then. And when I gave birth to the baby, it's interesting. My son, who's now 55 years old, they pulled him from my body and they held him up here. And I looked at this little baby, and I'm just a little girl. And it makes me cry when I say it. I looked in his eyes and I said, I promise I'm going to make a good life for you. And I did. He's a productive member of society. He never used drugs or alcohol. He's happily married. He has 2 daughters. He has his own business. So something I did was right. These you learn from the negatives in life, and we don't choose our childhoods, but they can be so profound. But the next thing that happened was I have this little boy. Now he's 5 years old, and it's in the afternoon. I wasn't working. I was just getting in the bathtub, and he said, can I go in the driveway and play with my little Flexi? It was like a thing you lie on your stomach and you know. And I went, okay, but don't go in the street. Just stay in the driveway. I promise, I promise. I'm just getting in the bathtub, and I hear a terrible noise outside. And then somebody banging on my front door. I grab my robe. I look out on the cul-de-sac, and there's my little boy. He had shot out of the driveway just as a car was coming over, and they ran over him. He was given a 50-50 chance to live, and I felt enormous guilt. And why? How could I have let him? It was my youth, and why did I? And why? And so after his bout in the hospital, for which I had no insurance, and the person who ran over him had no insurance, and so I said to them when I said, here's your bill. I said, I don't have any money. Is where you can write a check. I said, no, you don't want my check. I don't have any money. So now I've got bill collectors after me, and it's a real hard time of life. And then my little boy started having terrible, terrible, terrible nightmares, waking up screaming, shaking, sweating, and I'd hold him and I couldn't calm him down. And then I heard about the Community Mental Health Center, where they charge you according to your ability to pay. So I took him there, and she charged me $1 a visit for him. She said, but in order to work with him, I need to work with you. So now it's $2 a week, which actually was hard for me, but I got it. After a year, she said to me one day, he doesn't need to come anymore. He feels safe. He's sleeping through the night. He's not having nightmares. She said, I'd like you to stay. And I said, me? Why? She said, you have the lowest self-esteem of anyone I have ever met. She said, you're a walking apology. You apologize for who you are, what you look like, where you come from. Where did you get the feeling you are worth so little? And it took me 3 years to finally say these words. One day I said, I don't know. I just always thought I was stupid and hopeless and worthless and nothing. And then I said a big O. And then I looked at her and I said, oh my God, I believed it. I bought into it, because as kids, we get programmed, and this is what I was being told. And she started the process of reparenting me and helping me build back my self-esteem. It took 3 years. I never missed one.
Wow.
And she is why I am alive, and she is why I have the productive life that I have today, and that I've written all these books, and that I have a true loving relationship. I needed her in my life. And I always say to my son, I'm sorry that you had to go through that terrible accident so that we could both learn what we needed to learn, because it got him in therapy too. He loves therapy so much. He's 55 or 56 years old. He's still going. I go, you'll probably figure it out by now.
I love it. Oh, that's great. Last question, Susanne.
Uh-huh.
When you leave this experience in this lifetime, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I hope I have inspired and made a difference in people's lives. I really, really tried to help. I started the Children of Alcoholics movement. I started the bioidentical hormone movement because no one was taking care of women. And I've got your guts feeling good with the Gut Renew.
Yes, I'm taking it. I got it right here.
Well,
my fourth day.
Let me tell you what that Gut Renew does. So it's got everything in it that you would normally not ingest in a day. Me neither. Marshmallow root, Jerusalem artichoke, fermented soy protein, fermented pea protein, all this stuff, a lot of ingredients. Think of it as speckle, okay? So when the chemicals come into your GI tract, the length of a tennis court, and eat those holes in the GI tract to get out, causing leaks, which is where you get your leaky gut, and the leaks go on the rampant to get up to the brain. That gut renew kind of works as, in Susanne speak, speckle, like pasting up a wall that has leaks in it. And pretty soon, the chemicals don't leak out into the gut. It works through, and that's why you're starting to feel better. And people write me who've been using the gut renew that they're not constipated anymore, that their bloating is going away, that they're not dog tired anymore. Because when you've got all this backup in your intestines, the result is you're just dog tired. So I love figuring this out and passing it on to people. And it's as simple as a delicious smoothie every morning. Simple.
Yes.
Go to SusanneSummers.com.
I love it. And people can go to SusanneSummers.com to find out more about it. You can go to Amazon and get your book.
And the 2 Facebook Live shows, Mondays and Fridays.
Exactly. Catch you on the live shows.
Yeah.
Susanne, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate you. I'm sending you lots of great energy and love and blessings. And I am honored to have this opportunity with you. Continued success. Be the health advocate that you are, the dynamic superstar, and much love.
And I appreciate your depth of understanding and questioning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Gary Quinn. Join me for another episode of Ready, Set, Live. Until next time, stay well.